Hi everyone, it's Elaine Hamilton from the Reiki Centre, and today there's a new segment on the channel. I'm going to start doing interviews. Well, we're going to see how it goes, but I'm going to start doing interviews with wonderful friends I have in the Reiki community, just talking about their own experiences and what the Reiki unfolding journey has been like for them. Because you guys, you just listen to me going blah, blah, blah about everything, but there's so much wisdom and experience in the field, and everyone comes to Reiki slightly differently. So anyway, so let's see how this works. And I am so delighted and happy to introduce you to Karen Taylor. She's been a really dear old friend for a long time, hey? Yeah, a really long time. So
2007. 2007.
2007, geez. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm glad you remembered. I was like, it's been a long time. So yeah, so Karen is a Reiki master teacher, and she also does health coaching, and she's also a hypnotherapist. And so she's got lots and lots of tools in her toolbox. And so how I'd like to start actually, Karen, is why don't you just kind of say a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then we'll dive into going backwards and have a chat about how you came to Reiki. Just, yeah, that kind of thing. What do you think?
Okay, yeah. Where to start? So I'm an expat kid. I traveled around all my life. I'm half English and half Australian. And from an early age in Mauritius, I just in terms of a bit of my maybe spiritual journey, but from an early age in Mauritius, we were Seventh-day Adventists. And we used to go to church every um, Friday or Saturday. I can't remember when it was. But when we moved to Mauritius, it was French speaking, so we didn't go to church anymore. But I had quite a strong connection to church and God and Jesus. But in Mauritius, there was so many different nationalities and people from all over. As a young child, I remember thinking, why is one better than the other? So I felt very strongly that there was one God or one I suppose it was God at the time, but that I thought that was for everybody. And it was about, and why did we need to go to church to pray? Couldn't I just pray in my garden? So I had like a quite a strong sense of spirituality, I suppose, from that age. And also an understanding of a lot of different religions and cultures and ways of being. So again, a strong sense of feeling what's true to you is the way.
I love that. I think a lot of us have that inkling, right? That there's something odd about the way that we kind of categorize things or compartmentalize things, especially, I think you're right, especially growing up in a more international kind of situation where you have a lot of different cultures and a lot of different people that you meet that have completely different belief systems to you.
Yeah, so it came down to this heart connection, and what's very strong is, just that when somebody comes from the heart or somebody resonates with you in some way, that's all that matters. They can be older, younger, all sorts, but that heart connection is very strong. And I suppose that's what I really feel going to Reiki. That's what I felt, is that heart connection.
Mm.
Um, and that just that beautiful oneness. We're all the same inside. And now I see many different clients with hypnotherapy, Reiki, or health coaching. And the beauty is that beautiful heart connection that comes out. So it doesn't matter what the person's experienced, what they're coming for, but connecting from that space at that level is where the magic happens in terms of healing, in terms of connection and feeling heard and listened to and seen
Mm.
as you are, and then being able to, from that space, the nervous system relaxes and I feel the body can can heal so much easier and more profoundly from that space.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. So describe like what brought you to Reiki, like what kind of intuited for you that this might be something that is deeply connected for you?
Yeah, so just kind of going back a little bit, if you don't mind,
Oh, of
just
course.
in terms of um, what brought me to Reiki and complementary healing
Mm.
was in my mid-20s. I was diagnosed with a condition that doctors didn't really know anything about. And so I went along to the doctor, I had the operations, I took the medication. And after about a year, I felt terrible. I felt worse than I'd felt in the beginning. And I just thought there's got to be another way, maybe something gentler, more nurturing, more natural, or something that felt right. When I'd go along to the doctor, I was told that, well, you'd be very silly if you didn't take this medication, even though it wasn't known that this medication would really help anyway. So that was when I started really looking within and going on this search. So
Oh.
I tried a lot of different complementary therapies and I found benefits in them. Again, I don't think there's maybe, or for me, there wasn't one way. There seemed to be a few different ways and a few different things to do to feel better. So it was actually when I came to Singapore 19 years ago that at the time I was teaching English as a foreign language. My daughter was quite young, and a friend very kindly said, "Would you like a Reiki treatment?" And I had no idea what Reiki was. I hadn't even tried any energy healing modalities. And so, but I was very open to something that sounded wonderful. So I was like, yeah, great. So I lay down on the bed. It was at my house, and she put her hands on me, and very soon after, I just felt this calmness
Mm.
and what I now know as inner peace
Mm.
and maybe wholeness. My chattering mind calmed. And then it started up again, going, oh, this is nice. I wonder if I could do this, or how did she do this? Or is this difficult? And afterwards, when I kind of sat up, I felt so good. I felt calm and revitalized at the same time, which was really nice. And I said to my friend, wow, what's this? Tell me more about it. How did you train? And, when she mentioned it was a Reiki 1 workshop she'd done in one weekend, kind of had a bit of a light bulb moment of, wow, after so many years of going to other people, both conventional and complementary, maybe there's something I can do for myself. Maybe this is something that I could do to bring this peace. And maybe I can help my daughter and my husband with aches and pains and things that they're going through. So that's what started my Reiki journey. So, yeah.
Wow. It's weird, actually. We've known each other so long. I don't think I've ever heard the complete story before. It's funny, isn't it? We just gossip about all kinds of things, but not that. Oh, I see. So it was kind of like, and I think a lot of people probably come to Reiki from the complementary health angle, right? And then kind of get into it and all that kind of thing. So how long ago was that? So that was like, when did you do your Reiki 1?
So I did it with another master end of 2007, I think. And
Oh.
then I was looking she left, so I was looking for someone here in Singapore. And you probably remember this, but I found your mum, and
Yes, I forgot.
she
Yeah,
she
you
used to
wanted you
travel.
wanted the mummy.
I wanted the mummy Reiki master for sure. And for some reason, whenever she was visiting Singapore, because she lived somewhere else at the time, I can't remember where, but whenever she was visiting, I couldn't do it. And then you kept on coming up, and I was like, no, 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 I want the mum.
Yeah. I
But
want the
anyway,
older one.
I want the wiser,
The
older,
wiser
you
one.
know,
Yeah. Probably quite true back then,
the
to be fair.
one, you know. But anyway, so finally a course came up and I could do it, and it was with you. In and I went along, so I went along to Reiki 2 with you and just loved your practical, grounded approach.
Mm.
And again, that feeling of connection, that feeling of oneness, which kept on drawing me back to Reiki. So my 1, 2, and 3 was quite a quick succession, or reasonably quick succession when the courses were, when I could make them, because also my mum had early onset Alzheimer's and she was in the UK. So Reiki 2, I found quite profound to be able to send her Reiki from Singapore.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you might, do you mind talking about that, like that kind of connection that you got sending to her, even though she had Alzheimer's? Like, was there a connection? And obviously, if you don't want to talk about it, just let me know.
Yeah. There was a very strong connection with her and it felt right. She was quite religious. So I was a little bit worried about whether this would be something that she would like or not. And she couldn't speak, so she couldn't let me know.
Mm.
So I really tuned in with that. And I just got the message that, well, Jesus gave hands-on healing and, this is something that felt right. So I felt quite sensitive about it, but it really felt like the right thing. So I got all sorts of funny little messages from her about, how my dad was looking after her and he couldn't even boil an egg before and now he was cooking and so we actually had a few giggles about it and I just still not sure why and how and wasn't able to help her as much as I wanted,
Mm.
but incredible things came out of it in terms of my relationship with my father and really respecting him for looking after her for 10 years and also having an extra bond, being able to give him some Reiki when he needed it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually really interesting. So just to clarify for those literal people, she wasn't actually speaking to you about boiling the egg and your father. It was more. So how did that feel coming in? Because obviously you were in Singapore, she was in the UK. You're sending Reiki, and then so how would you describe that?
Gosh, it's really hard to put these kind of things in words,
Right? Yeah.
but it just felt very connected, very natural, very special and beautiful and profound, just to be able to connect at this deeper
Mm.
level, my mum. And very natural, very normal, almost like I was with her and having a conversation with her.
Yeah.
And when I went back to England in the summer holidays, I'd give her hands-on Reiki, which was beautiful too. But it did amaze me how connected we were from a distance.
Mm. That's really nice. That's
Mm.
really, really nice. So yeah, for anybody listening, it's kind of like there is that connection that happens over distance, that you really don't have to be in the same room with somebody. And in your case, you don't even have to have somebody that's able to communicate verbally anymore. You can still have a really deep connection with the spirit, the soul. What would you call that? Who knows?
Who knows? I mean, we are all connected
Mm.
energetically. Um, and yeah, it feels like maybe the soul is
Mm.
always there. It's almost like in terms of consciousness and the ocean, or Reiki being the glue that sticks the universe together, or the ocean and us being the waves. It's almost like I feel that the wave maybe goes back into the ocean, in terms of when my mum passed on, there's still remnants there of, does that make sense?
Of her, yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, it's what you feel, isn't it? And it's how connected you feel and what you make of it. Because ultimately, none of us really know the truth, but that's such a beautiful gift, I guess, that you could still stay connected over what must have been a really, really challenging time, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's funny how these conversations go, isn't it? It's like, oh, well, let's talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So, kind of catching up on the journey. So then you did your Reiki Master training, and then at the time you were doing your training, were you kind of thinking that you would be moving in this direction you were in now? I mean, how was that unfolding process for you? What happened?
So I suppose when I did Reiki 1, I was, feeling, oh, this is something that can be for me to help me with my healing. And then when I did Reiki 2, I started to think, oh, I've been exploring this journey with complementary therapy for a long time now. And I never thought maybe it's leading me to being a practitioner myself. But at Reiki 2, I started to think, oh, wow, maybe this is something I can do to help others. And so I actually reached out to you and said, if you need any Reiki practitioners at the time, I'd be willing. And again, that was one of those incredible aha moments of, I hadn't thought about it before, and it just suddenly became so apparent and so obvious that it's almost like my health challenges were leading me into this direction. And so I feel all of the experience and knowledge that I've gained along the way has helped me to support other people who may be going through a similar or a different challenge. So I can now feel that I can support people with whatever journey they're going on, with a few tools to inspire and motivate and assist, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the same tools that they will go to, which is a bit similar to being a Reiki teacher, where you're holding space, or I like to hold space for somebody to find their own gifts or find their own path or their own way up the mountain. There's many paths, and Reiki may not be the only one, and it may be the only one. So
Interesting. Yeah, because as you're talking, I was thinking, oh, I wonder what drew you to hypnotherapy. But of course, I completely forgot. I'm sorry about this, that you're a yoga teacher as well. So you have actually explored like the mind with the hypno and the body with the yoga and the spirit or the energy with the Reiki. So it's kind of, for you personally, was that quite an important exploration to like look at all the different prongs, if you like what the yogis would say, like the 8 quadrants, right?
So it wasn't really intentional.
Mm.
The mind was, because of my mum with early onset Alzheimer's, I had a particular interest in the mind.
Right.
And I'd had a couple of experiences, and I really felt that that's an incredible area. So the Reiki and the energy and the mind was definitely a passion. And then it was just like following the breadcrumb trail. I really feel that there's not a meant to, but I feel that following what you love and following your joy is a great way to live, because when you're happier, then everybody's happier around you. Anyway, and just going on to that point, Sorry, I keep going back and around, but it just brings to mind something called Giri that I know I've mentioned before, but it's something that really profoundly resonated with me. So I read one of the Reiki books by Paula Horan, and she mentioned that there was a certain time in Japanese history where it was a very peaceful time. And that was because people did what they loved with an honor and a commitment to it. So they really, and because everybody was doing what they loved with that same honor and joyful commitment, it meant that people trusted each other. And so there was no need for police or anything at that time, because the society just worked well, naturally, and peacefully. So now how to come back to what I was saying. So following your love and your joy is something that I really feel is the way to live happily in society.
Yeah.
So what was your question again? Sorry.
I'm not really sure I had one. I think we were just like rambling around, but I'm kind of curious, because obviously I know a lot of Reiki teachers, and people do seem to find their passions. And for some people, like, they just do Reiki. And then for other people like yourself, they do Reiki and they do hypno, and they do, like, there's a whole bunch of other things that, I guess, like you say, if you follow your joy, then you're going to just naturally gravitate towards different modalities that speak to you. And then in doing so, you naturally attract, I mean, I don't know whether you feel this, but it's like, then you naturally attract the right people to you who are also interested in a similar thing, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe, or there's like an essence, a deeper essence, and a connection. So after Reiki 3, I took quite a few years. So my journey's been quite a long one. I think there was, so I started in end of 2007 and did 1, 2, and 3 reasonably quickly, maybe over a couple of years. And then waited quite a long time until 2012, where I decided I kind of had the calling to teach. I wanted to pass this on to others. And it's interesting now because I've taught some Reiki masters, and some of them have been on quite a quick journey, and some of them have been on a slow journey, like myself. And there's no judgment. When it hits you, when you feel like moving on or doing something, it comes so strongly, and it just feels right. It's a firm yes, rather than, oh, I don't know and I can't do it. It's this strong yes. And then the how doesn't matter. That takes care of itself. And so, yeah, I had this longer journey, but I also explored other modalities that I was interested in.
Yeah.
And it very nicely, now looking back, it's really nice to be able to offer mind, body, spirit, to work with the health coaching, with the breath, with what might be out of balance in somebody's life, whether it's their career, their relationship, their diet, their physical activity, whatever it might be, looking, and their joy or their stress or their spirituality. So really looking across the breadth of their life as to what's out of balance, and also being able to really get to the root cause with something like hypnotherapy or Reiki feels very magical. I really love the sessions where, we might do some coaching and talk about experiences and what's going on and focus, and then follow up with 20 minutes of Reiki to allow things to settle and become clear, and that beautiful connection with inner self and peace. and calming of the nervous system, which is so important in today's society, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to come back to the idea that when you look at the breadth of somebody's life, then something might feel out of balance. What does that kind of mean to you or your clients, or you know what I mean? Like, how do you, I guess I'm kind of saying, well, how do you know when something's out of balance?
Well, I suppose clients will come to me for lots of different reasons.
Mm,
It might be a physical ailment. It might be to break a habit, like stopping smoking. It might be to, if they're very fearful of something and they want to change that. So there's lots of different reasons why they come, or that they just feel just a little bit out of whack. Something's not right. They want to change, and it
mm,
might be they want to feel that peace, that joy again in life. So sometimes we may just do Reiki sessions, and that can be perfect. One of my clients about a year ago, she had done so many different things. And a lot of my clients have done so many different things. And, they kind of come to Reiki or hypnotherapy sometimes as an end resort. But she'd done many things and a lot of very complicated things.
mm,
So, and at the end of the session, she said, Karen, it's so simple, isn't it?
mm.
And I just knew that she got it. She got it at a very deep level. Sometimes we like to make things so complicated. And I think the beauty of Reiki to me was always it's simple and effective.
Yeah,
You know.
I love that. I love that so much. And it's so true. It's like when it dawns on you that you don't have to twist yourself into a pretzel. You'd have to do 27 million ritualistic things a day in order to be okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah.
cool. That
And
really,
whether that's 15 minutes in terms of if you're a Reiki person, whether that's giving yourself 15 minutes of Reiki a day or 40 minutes or the full hour.
mm,
Again, that's for you to really kind of check in with yourself. What supports me best?
yeah,
Um, and with that connection, as we always talk about, that connection into Reiki or the inner self or the wholeness or all that is, when you kind of plug into that, I always talk about the avatar, where I think they plug into the tail, do they, of the being? Can't remember, but they plug in, and it's like they plug into the universe and they become one with that animal.
mm,
And, so that kind of oneness that I feel when you're giving Reiki or when you do a Reiki attunement, it's almost like that plugging into the system, that plugging into all that is. And there's a sense, to me, a sense of calmness, a sense of peace. So doing that as many times a day
yeah,
as that calms you, that balances you, coming back to balance. So Reiki's one great way to come back into balance. And
mm,
from that space, it's so much easier with relationships, it's so much easier with making decisions. So I just feel as if it's so helpful there. So with the balance of the breath, there's also the balance with the coming back to your inner self
yeah.
and then feeling the balance.
So you were kind of lucky. I'm going to say lucky in that you still remember feeling like that as a child, like that insight that you had of why are the adults? Because it literally was, wasn't it? Like you knew everything was deeply connected. And then it was like you're looking around the adult world going, this is weird. This doesn't make sense. But I have to say, because people have said to me in the past as well, oh, go back to your joy, go back to your childhood innocence. I really struggled with that because I never could remember it. Like for as long as I can remember, I was conditioned. And so I never had what you described, actually. I never had that insight. Um, so it's always interesting to me when we discuss this, because I think when people have that kind of memory, there's something to go back to. But then when you don't have that memory, you don't even know that you're lost in a way. That's why I kind of said to you before, how do you know you're in balance? How do you know it's out of balance? How do you know anything? Because in my memories as a child, all I can remember was an incredibly serious, quiet child that was just ever since I can remember, constantly on guard and like looking for safety. It's kind of weird, actually. But I know a lot of people like that as well. So when you talk about going back, I'm like, back to what? So would you say, like, again, with hindsight is brilliant, right? Would you say that what am I trying to ask? It's almost like whether you had that experience back then or not, your Reiki experience, because I was the same. Like when I started using Reiki, I knew it was home, but I didn't know why I knew it was home. I was just kind of like, well, that's weird. But there was something in me that really recognized it. But then I got a bit thrown when people would say, go back, because I'm like, no, it's not. For me, it wasn't a back. It was more like more forwards, actually. Well, I don't really know what it was, but it wasn't that. Um, Now I don't even know what question I'm asking you. Do you have anything to say around that? Like,
I think just, you know, a similar along those lines is being maybe, but being an expat kid, I never had a home
yeah, me
because,
too.
you know, if I went, so I'm half English, half Australian, when I went to England, I didn't feel at home. I didn't feel like I belonged, even though I sounded the same.
Yeah, and look the same.
Um, and looked the same.
Mm,
And when I went to Australia, I wasn't at
mm,
home either. So for many years, I felt I want my house and my garden and my friends around and family and, I want a home. And it wasn't really until, I don't know, the beginning years of my Reiki where I realized deeply and profoundly that realization that's very different to, oh, yes, I know that. It was really deeply, my home is where my heart is,
mm.
and so I lost that feeling of desperately needing to find the perfect place or, you know, the perfect even community or anything. It was really deeply, I'm home
Yeah,
now. And that trust that feeling of being at home and connected will maybe lead you, maybe not, but lead you to a beautiful community of people, no matter where you are. So I feel as if this heart connection um, really does draw similar people. A dream of mine is to have to be amongst a community of heart-centered people
mm,
who treat each other with respect. Maybe a little bit like the Giri I was talking about, the Japanese society, where each person has their place. And funnily enough, as well, I had this dream of having a holistic center. And this was back in was it my late 20s or whatever? So I'm saying that I didn't think I was going to be a practitioner, but actually, years and years ago, I had the dream of there being my background's as a school teacher. So I was kind of thinking, right, we can have maybe a beautiful holistic center in the middle with an organic garden, and different people would come in to help each other, and children could, work the garden, and there'd be a healthy, delicious cafe there. And, So there was almost this kind of community dream. And then it wasn't until I started working for a holistic center about 5 years ago, I suddenly realized, wow, I had that dream already. It's not fully everything,
Yeah.
but there's a community of practitioners. Like I'd love to work at an integrated practice where there's a functional medicine doctor, where there's a Reiki practitioner, a nutritionist, all sorts of different people, a hypnotherapist, so that we can really do give the best service to somebody, depending on their needs. And those practitioners also support each other so that they are, can give the best service to the people that come to them.
Yeah.
But this is kind of a long way round of kind of saying that, well, one, also thank you to you, because in thinking about that, you set up the Reiki Centre. I can't remember the year that you first set it up, but that also was a community of
Yeah.
like-minded practitioners.
Yeah, that was amazing.
There was incredible people that came together and worked together. And that was the start of the dream. And then, but just realizing that I've had this dream and now I am actually living it.
Yeah.
Even though it might not be in the right place that I want to be or quite exactly how I'd like it, but it's getting closer and closer. And what I love about Reiki is it really feels like from that heart-centered space, the right people come together. And I run Reiki shares exactly the same as you used to run them. And thanks to you for such a beautiful learning. It's almost like when I learned Reiki from you years ago, it was almost like I was a little bit more like the apprentice style in a way, because I would come along to the Reiki shares. I would come along to your Reiki 1s and your Reiki 2s and your Reiki 3s. And I would really embrace the Reiki community and Reiki and all the teachings and learnings. And that then gave me the confidence to step out on my own. And there's no right or wrong path, but that was a very beautiful path for me. So thank you so much for the opportunities there.
Oh yeah, very welcome. Very welcome. So yeah, so it's interesting as you're talking, I'm just feeling into this idea of we talk about the unfolding process. And we use that word a lot, right? It's the perfect unfolding process. But so much of what you describe in your own life experience is this amazing unfolding process that has happened until one day you're kind of waking up going, hang on a minute. This is really unfolding into everything that you hold dear, in a sense, like your values, what you love to create, the people you love to create with that. Because it's ever since I've known you, like community has been such a center underpinning value of yours, right? And it's just so amazing to me how, it's kind of like that whole thing that you say, it might not be in your mind's eye, the way that the mind has created this kind of perfect fantasy thing, which all of us do, right? We create these ideas, but then oftentimes it might well be happening right under our nose, but we don't even notice because we're too busy out there thinking, no, but it needs to be here or it needs to look like this. And so we miss the beauty of really the gifts that the universe is giving us, right? To say, well, here, you want community, here's a wonderful person to work with, or you want heart-centered people, here's a beautiful heart-centered person. And we're just too busy, like this can happen. So I'm really glad it hasn't. And I find myself doing that too. It's like I'm off in my head dreaming of this perfect scenario when right in front of me are these incredible opportunities and gifts and people. And that's a really cool thing, because as you talk, it's like, well, and then I did this and then I did that. But at the time, there was no real master plan as such that you're working towards. But in a sense, there was, because there was that kind of dream out there that this is what I would like to move towards. And then almost like unconsciously, you start to move towards it.
Yeah. And I just wanted to talk about the Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, which is life is a journey, not a destination, right? And we're
Yeah.
often rushing to get to the destination, desperate to get to the thing. And it's actually all about process
Yeah.
and enjoying the moment.
Yeah.
That is magic. And
Yeah.
if you can enjoy this moment and then this moment and then this moment, all those moments then make up, whether you're living your life happily or not.
Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that reminder of, what's important to you and then looking for it, like you say, not searching and like grasping, but just noticing. It is about noticing, isn't it? How all those values are showing up for you every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. I've loved
I
this. This has
I
been great.
know.
Yeah, I
I
really
love
love
it.
this.
I'm
This
enjoying it so much, but there's so much that I want to say. Like, that the community leads on to, and I know you used to get such a joy in connecting people.
oh,
But
love it.
when you're in a Reiki share and you see two people connecting and and more and what comes from it, the joy that that brings
Yeah,
of bringing heart-centered people together and seeing what happens, and um also all the research into loneliness,
mm,
and how loneliness is
it's a
not a
killer.
good thing.
No, it's a killer.
So the more that we can come together and support each other, the better.
Yeah,
And that comes to the 5 principles of Reiki. You know, being being grateful for one, thinking of what you already have, which is like the right in front of me. I've already got what what I was looking for, and I hadn't even realized.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so to look, a practice that I love to do is at the end of each day, just to get my journal and sit in bed. I go to bed pretty early, um, and just writing what went well in the day. What did I enjoy, and if I've got time, maybe sending Reiki to that. So being with that for
yeah,
15 minutes, just kind of, that's quite powerful. That's focusing, your energy on what you want.
yeah, yeah. That's really beautiful as well, because so much of our day, and coming back, I guess, to why people would come to us in the first place is because they think they have a problem. There's something is out of balance, something's not right. And it might well be that one thing is out of balance, as they say, or there's one problem, but then there's like 20 things that are going so great. But we tend to just focus on that one thing that's not right. And therefore, the rest of it doesn't matter. And actually, like you say, if you sit down every day and just write the list of the other 20 things, you're going to find it pretty damn quick. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, our
Mm.
brain is wired that way, isn't
Yeah.
it? So,
Yeah.
a client will come to me and I'll say, what do you want to focus on? What do you want? And often they don't even know what
Mm.
they want, but they know what they don't want.
Yeah.
So even when we've come down to what they want, it really takes the whole session of bringing them back to, okay, I know you don't want that. Let's focus on what you do want.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it, how much we focus, like you say, focus on what's not going well instead of the loads of things that are going well. And sometimes it's hard, right? We're going through a very difficult time in our life, and it's not always easy
Yeah.
to focus on what is going well or to flip that switch, which is when then it is useful to have people around you who can support you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. And so that is actually when having a coach or having somebody, a therapist or something like that in your corner who can actually just kind of remind you of these little things can be super helpful, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
So bringing us up to date now, what kind of people is your joy to work with? Like, you know, and how can people find you? Let's put it that way.
So, I love working with people who are ready for change.
Mm.
So they want to change. They might not know where or how, but they're ready for some change. And they're also happy to put the work in, because it can take a little bit of work, you know. So those are the kind of people that I love working with, and just seeing them making the little changes each session, and after a few sessions, the incredible changes they make. I mean, I'm always quite amazed how, yeah, how much change they make. You know, a recent beautiful client was going through a really tough time with changes in, as a woman, starting to go through menopause. And in the past, she'd suffered from depression and all sorts of things. She'd had quite a life story, actually. And she'd been to see psychologists and been on very heavy medication. And she'd been through such a long journey of that. And she decided she didn't want to do that this time. So a lot of the work that I do is complementary. So I explain that and also give her some doctors and psychologists and examples of people that she can work with. But she was adamant that she didn't want to go there. So I'd given her the advice, I'd given her the people to go to. But amazingly, she did everything that we discussed. And honestly, I can't even begin to explain the changes that happened, but it was magic, absolutely magic. You know, people kind of offered her certain contracts, and she met the right people at the right time. And as she's talking, I'm literally, my mouth is just open, just gobsmacked with, you know, and yeah, I absolutely love being the catalyst, or being the person that can hold space for somebody to light up.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's incredible. And
that's what I love.
you work face to face, but you do also work online as well. So people can get hold of you if they're not in Singapore, right?
Yeah. So I work with health coaching and Reiki online.
Yeah.
And I work in person with hypnotherapy, Reiki, and health coaching
Okay.
at a place here called Balance Living, which is a beautiful space with a healthy cafe downstairs,
Love their cafe.
beautiful workshop space in the middle, and at the top, wonderful therapy rooms. And it was, you know, started by a wonderful lady who also realized how much it took to set up a centre, and used to always speak very highly of you, Elaine, because she realized how much it took.
It is.
And so she would very much want to support other people who were doing the same thing.
Yeah, amazing. So I'm gonna put your details in the notes below. So if anyone is kind of resonating with Karen, she's amazing. Then you can just look her up and maybe book in a session. Honestly, this has just been so lovely chatting with you, and I'm really glad I've decided to do this segment, because it's just really heart-opening to listen to other people's stories. And even though, as I said, we've known each other so long, I've just never heard you articulate like that before in terms of how you came to it. So that's just been a real joy. And so I hope you guys enjoy it. Put a note in the comments if you like more of this kind of thing. And because I've got lots of other teachers that I could interview as well, from lots of different walks of life. So this could be a really fun addition for you guys to learn, and for me to just sit back and absorb the love from other people. It's really nice. So yeah, hope that was helpful. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Bye. Thank you, Karen.